The regular season is over. It's the playoffs. I'm Tarek Patel.
It's the playoffs for high school basketball. That's what Tarek's talking about. I'm Randy Rosenblum, and this is SoCal Prep Report. I think it's fitting that Tarek started the show today. He just loves prep basketball. He loves basketball in general. So in a sense, over the next 30 minutes, as we get you caught up on prep basketball, as we turn our attention to the playoffs, it's almost going to be like an interview of Tarek because this is right in his wheelhouse. I know you're pumped up. First of all, Happy New Year. Welcome back. And it's your time of the year.
Yeah, it's always a busy time. I love high school basketball. I think it's great to be in the gym and hear the sounds of the game per se. But really, to catch you guys up, it is the postseason. The regular season ended Wednesday night, and the playoff pairings from the Southern section will be on Saturday at noon, and off we go.
We're going to show you the top 10 here. It's meaningless because now we're getting ready for the playoffs. Just want to give you a little flavor of who the best teams were during the regular season, and there's been changes because some of these teams lost on Wednesday night in different tournaments, and we're going to get into that. But Sierra Canyon, Redondo Union, and the rest. Is there a team in there, Tarek, that we're not talking about that really had a spectacular year? Maybe Corona Del Mar?
Yeah, I think there's a couple. It's almost like different versions of a type of team or storyline. For me, everyone's been talking about Sierra Canyon because they're loaded. They got 2 McDonald's All-Americans on their team, and Brandon McCoy and Maxie Adams. So everyone's been talking about them. The team not being talked about enough is Redondo Union. Coach Reggie Morris has a great team, and it's maybe one of his most versatile teams. We're talking about probably 5 or 6 guys easy that are anywhere between 6'4", 6'6", maybe even a 6'7" in there. They can switch everything. They can play fast. They can slow it down. They can shoot. They can drive. It's just interchangeable pieces that can mold to whatever the game needs. And Reggie Morris might have his best team yet, and I believe they are the biggest threat to a team like Sierra Canyon. And my last ad would be, like Cinderella story-wise, Corona Del Mar. They're the team that probably in the past has no business sniffing the open, but due to this new system, I think the CIF is going to draw a line that allows them to be in the open. I believe they're 26 or 27-1, something like that. And I've talked to Coach Jason Simcoe. They are licking the chops. They want to be in the open. They understand what kind of honor it is to be in that division. They are not feeling bad for themselves. So that is certainly a team to watch.
What about Isaiah Rogers, the young man at Corona Centennial? And we're going to talk about some of the best players a little bit later in the show. I didn't put him in that group, but I want to give him that shout out now. He averages over 22 a game. You've seen him play. Can he bring the Huskies back to what we saw just a few years ago when they were championship material?
Yeah, and let's not forget, there's pedigree there, right? You mentioned it. Josh Giles won back-to-back state championships with Jared McCain and Donovan Dent. And is Aaron McBride, I believe, was the other one. I'm listing another one, the tall guy that went to UCLA. But anyway, point is they've had some standout teams. And you're right, they've had a couple rebuilding years, and now they're back. And Isaiah Rogers, who's going to Stanford, by the way, and everyone calls him Slim Rogers, is the superstar factor you need in the playoffs sometimes. And so that's another team that is somewhat forgotten in the mix and is very, very capable of winning games.
Another team is Crean Lutheran. They're huge up front, 6'8", 6'10", 6'11". We'll see how Crean Lutheran does as well. All right, let's take a look. First, we'll start out with the Mission League tournament, which finished up just last night. Loyola St. Francis. We're going to go through some of the early round games and move our way up. To me, This was surprising. St. Francis has the big guy in the middle.
So he's been out of games recently, and you're right. I think if he's healthy during these last week, 10 days of the season, they probably win more games. But I'm also not surprised. Loyola beat St. Francis earlier in the year, so Loyola did it again. And Loyola's probably been one of the better storylines, in my opinion, this year. And when it comes to the Mission League, new coach Cam Joyce comes in. Loyola was bottom of the league last year, and in 1 year, couple transfers, fine, that's the way the game's played, and he gets them an automatic qualifying berth because they advance to the semifinals. So kudos to Cam Joyce for really turning things around already in year one.
Harvard Westlake has a sterling performer in Joe Sterling, but he was not enough against Crespi. And Crespi's got a very solid basketball team.
Yes.
They were impressive all season long.
Yeah, they were. They had these, I mean, typical kind of younger team, a lot of juniors, not a lot of seniors. So they got another year, but Josiah Williams, Carter and Isaiah Barnes, and then they've got this JV player that came up named Kamen Martin, and he's been a really fun project to see develop. So they've got this core group of players that have gotten better throughout the year. They've had their highs, and they've certainly had their lows, but to get to the Mission League semifinal by way of beating Harvard-Westlake, very impressive for the Celts, and of course, Coach Derek Fisher.
Derek Fisher's done a tremendous job. Of course, that's the same Derek Fisher that played for the Lakers, and he's turned that Celts program into a very, very solid team. All right, let's move ahead to the semifinals. We'll start with Sierra Canyon. Loyola had to meet them in the semis. This not much of a matchup. Sierra Canyon, the number one team in the Southland right now, overpowers them. You've talked about their superstars, Brandon McCoy Jr., Maxie Adams. They're very deep, very talented.
Yeah, and I think that one of the bigger surprises for Sierra Canyon this year was the rise of Jordan Mize. And I didn't mean to rhyme that.
It's good, though.
But it's pretty good, right? Yeah. But he's a sophomore, and boy, you're talking about arguably, Randy, like a top 20, top 25 type player. You could be looking at another McDonald's All-American kind of talent as a sophomore. So the two McDonald's All-Americans in McCoy and Adams, Jordan Mize, some veteran seniors in Stephen Cancoli and Devin Askew, really, really good players.
McCoy and Adams, by the way, had 53 of the 103 there, so they turned it on against the Cubs. The other game was Notre Dame and Crespi. Notre Dame won it. Navarro Bowman's the star act there for the Knights. Big game, over 30 points, 32 points to be exact, and Notre Dame knocks off Crespi in a good ball game, 82-78.
Quick correction, it's not Devin Askew, it's Jordan Askew on Sierra Canyon. Older brother Devin Askew played in Modern Day. Notre Dame, Crespi, great game, and I think, not to jump ahead, but the reason why I want to point out this result, look, Notre Dame won, they were the number 2 seed, they beat Crespi earlier in the year. They're kind of supposed to win the game, per se, but I do want to actually talk about Crespi. They beat Harvard-Westlake, and they lose by 4 to a highly ranked Notre Dame team. Don't be surprised if those two results alone put Crespi in the Open Division.
Depending on how many teams go to the Open Division. And we're going to ask Tark about that a little bit later. All right, let's go on to the championship game, which unfortunately wasn't played. There was a tragic situation. A young man at Sierra Canyon lost his life, not an athlete, just a gentleman, young man, just a sophomore, in a car incident, and unfortunately he loses his life, so they don't play the championship game, and both teams will share, I guess, the league title.
Yeah, so there were no champion. That's why they created the Mission League, to crown a champion, so there will be no champion for 2026. However, the two schools agreed, hey, look, let's just submit the final league standings as they were seeded when the tournament started. So Sierra Canyon will be the Mission League number 1, having beaten Notre Dame earlier in the year. Notre Dame will be number 2, Crespi number 3, and Loyola number 4. Those are the automatic qualifiers. But yes, due to the tragic incident of a young student dying in a car accident that Wednesday morning, they thought out of respect it'd be better not to play the game, and so they didn't.
You're right. In a sense, they do share the Trinity League tournament title because they don't play the championship, but they fall back, as you say, to the regular season. Very good point on your side there to bring up the fact that Sierra Canyon was the top team during the regular season, and they're going to get the higher nod this weekend. Moving ahead to the Trinity League. What a tournament this was. Really came down to the two best teams, St. John Bosco and Santa Margarita. Went right down to the wire. Santa Margarita won it 57-56. Drew Anderson had a really nice game, 24 points. Bosco's got Christian Collins. He had 30-point game here. But it wasn't enough as Santa Margarita held on and the Eagles won it.
Yeah, I was there last night at Hope International. Great crowd, and we got some highlights we can roll of it. But yeah, Drew Anderson, to me, is probably one of the biggest breakout players of the year. And what's maybe more impressive about this, Randy, and this is Braden Kyman hitting a 3 here, had 6 threes in the game, 20 points. And here's Christian Collins cleaning up something. He had 32 points. By the way, McDonald's All-American is Christian Collins. But one of the things I'd like to mention is, look, Santa Margarita won this game over a good St. John Bosco team, and Caden Bailey, who's going to Georgia Tech, 0 points.
How's that possible?
Yeah,
because he was their high-wire guy. He was the guy that everyone talked about at the beginning of the year.
He is their guy, but I just think there's a testament here as the final moments here. St. John Bosco trying to take the lead. They're down 1, no foul call there. Final attempt at it as time expires, doesn't go. The dancing ensues. Santa Margarita wins the league title for a second year in a row. The Trinity League champions are the Eagles. But to answer your question, Caden Bailey, I just think maybe even a testament of not sulking, not pouting, finding a way to still distribute and play defense and so on and so forth. But really testament to how good the team is when your star player scores 0 and the other guys pick it up.
I do want to show one modern day score here because they lost 2 out of 3 games. But the one game they won when they had Luke Barnett, their star player. Now, he came back later in the tournament. He had a big performance against Oulu, and they won 92-65. And I was starting to think maybe the Monarchs could make one of those Cinderella runs, even though modern day is never really Cinderella.
Correct.
But he gets sick, won the same the rest of the tournament, and they got bounced after this.
Yeah, they ended up playing in the 3rd place game last night against Jay Sarah and lost by about 20 points. So I believe that makes them the 4th place finisher in the league, but it is a 6-team league. So only the top 3 teams get an automatic qualifier. So for Mater Dei, that's a little scary for them because they haven't had a great year. So now they're going to try and get into the playoffs as an at-large berth, and their rank isn't very high. So it's very possible we might see the Mater Dei boys basketball team, which is you kind of alluded to. We were talking about like one of the blue bloods of high school basketball, not just California or the Southern section. They might not be in the postseason for the first time in probably 2 decades.
That would be amazing. And their coach, Gary McKnight, next year figures to become the all-time winningest coach in the history of high school basketball. And speaking of high school basketball, one game in the city I want to talk about too is Fairfax really railroading Westchester, beating him up 62-44. And really, to me, the storyline here, Fairfax is a little above average, not like they used to be, but Westchester, I'm looking at their record here, it's 5-13 and a 5th place finish in the Western League. Westchester has won the LA City Championship 15 times, Tarek, and they're 5-13. And you saw them play earlier, and I don't think you were impressed.
Yeah, it was, I tell you what, now that I think about it, I think I saw Fairfax play against Palisades, and they didn't look too great either. And so the fact that Fairfax beat Westchester by 20 is a little alarming. But man, and I hate to, knock on teams that are trying their hardest and coaches are coaching them up and the whole thing. But I think what you're alluding to is a sign of the times.
Yes.
The city section used to be city section teams used to thump Southern section teams back in the day. I mean, it was like, oh, you go to private school or you're in the Southern section. City section is where the hoops was. You
just see Fairfax Westchester. You weren't just thinking about that game. You were thinking about which one of these teams might win the state championship.
Right.
That's how much things have changed.
Yeah, and you remember, let's not forget, like Taft used to be a blue blood under Derek Taylor, and I mean, the list goes on of great teams that used to be in the city, and it just doesn't exist anymore. There was a glimpse of it last year with Taj Ariza at Westchester and Elijah Arenas at Chatsworth. That was really fun, but man, it was really just kind of a vapor. It was only for 1 year.
Yep, it was a comet. It was Haley's Comet. 1 year gone. Harvey Katani, speaking of Fairfax, guy who has not left the premises, reaches 1,000 wins in his career. Now, Mike LeDuc has done that at Damien, and of course, Gary McKnight at Mater Dei. But Harvey Katani, with all those great years at Fairfax, all championships he's won at both Rolling Hills, where he is now, and at Fairfax, gets to that 1,000-win plateau.
Yeah, I mean, Harvey Katani is one of the best coaches to ever coach high school basketball. I believe he's coached a McDonald's All-American game, which is quite the honor. I think he had like Kevin Durant. I mean, I want to say it was like the 07 game, maybe 06. But I've had stories with him about that game. But you're talking about a guy that's seen it all and is a great coach and a great leader of young men. So kudos to him, and I think that number's going to continue to pile up. We need to appreciate Katani, LeDuc, and of course McKnight. And I don't think a lot of people talk about LeDuc at Damien either. He's kind of, everybody knows about McKnight because Mater Dei and all that. And Harvey Katani, when he was at Fairfax, has won all these championships and got some press. Then there's LeDuc at Damien, and we saw his team listed. They're a potential open team. This guy doesn't get any credit. I tell you what it is. So I remember they won a Division I state championship, 2021, maybe 2022, something like that. And I remember being in the hallway before the press conference, and he almost like didn't want to celebrate. He is somewhat of a shyer, reserved guy. Great guy, though. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But he just doesn't like all of it. So, the coaches that are, I'm not saying Katani and McKnight are about themselves, but I think there's a little bit of them that understands the power of the media, so they kind of help to market themselves by being friendly with media members. Not saying LeDuc isn't, but he's just not really about the glitz and the glamour. He probably needs to be. Last ad, those Damian teams, as good as they are, they're never really that sexy. I mean, it's just the truth. They don't have the 5-star kid going, McDonald's All-Americans. Katani has had so many great All-Americans on his teams. So, and Gary McKnight, I mean, we don't have to go, Mater Dei's got the who's who.
We could fight about which one of these coaches is the best, but speaking of fights, like the segue?
Yeah, that was good. That was good. I like that.
A basketball.
Yeah. Oh, I see what you did there, too.
Okay, that's what we're doing here.
Okay.
Tark's going to set it up for you. You mentioned the teams in this, right? I don't have to mention the teams? We know it's Inglewood.
Yeah, if you roll it,
and
it'll fill everybody
everything's
in.
there. Tark's going to pick it up from here.
Hey everybody, Tark Fattel here from High School on SI, breaking down Monday night's brawl, scuffle, brouhaha between Inglewood and Aquinas. Inglewood is in the red, winning 91-78. You see it there on the screen. A little bit of token pressure and a bucket really with no time remaining that actually gets called off. It doesn't count. But what we see here is as the Aquinas players in the white start heading towards their bench, number 13 right there, probably getting chirped at, stops, exchanges a few pleasantries, and this is pretty much where things start. He pushes an Inglewood player. The Inglewood player pushes back. What you see here is Jason Crow, the head coach at Inglewood, circled there. He wraps up the Aquinas player, but what happens is the Inglewood player pushes Crow in the back, and it subsequently pushes the Aquinas player too, so they kind of start floating to this near side sideline. And if we kind of rewind just a little bit, look at this gentleman here in the black hoodie. I mean, basically pulling his sweats up and taking a big shot at an Aquinas player while Crow's got the young man wrapped up. And now bedlam ensues. And if you keep your eyes on the bottom of this screen, I mean, there's so much to capture. You will have to repeat this over and over again to see how many punches are thrown, arms are grabbed, pushes are done, one throws a shot there. There's all kinds of stuff going on, so I'm not really going to slow this part down because there's so much to break down. You can go back and look at it. But as it starts to somewhat dissipate, you see one more big blow come here, and that's number 1 in the white on the left side of your screen right there. He makes out to go find what appears to be an Inglewood coach or administrator and throws a haymaker at this adult. But the fight gets off camera, and that's the end of that. But for the most part, what's probably going to happen here is the CIF generally tends to delegate any consequences to the schools. So the schools will look at this, review it, maybe talk to the officials, and then hand down any type of suspension or consequences. If those don't happen, then the CIF steps in generally and says, okay, hey, this is how these suspensions are going to go. But the season ends February 4th, so you might see coaches and players miss a few games, but they should be fine for the playoffs, which start February 11th. There were obviously some consequences for that game. About 4 or 5 Inglewood players all got 1-game suspensions. As crazy it all seems, not one Inglewood player threw a punch, so I think that was the CIF's rationale there. They were the road team. Aquinas, there were some big penalties there. One player got 6 games. A few others got 4 games. I want to say 2 or 3 got 3 games, and then there were a few more other players that got 1 game. I want to say there was about 7 or 8 suspensions in total. But that's the end of that, and we're on to the playoffs.
Hopefully those young men will learn their lesson. Don't want to fight after a basketball game. All right, here are some of the top players, I believe, this year in SoCal. I'll go through the list that I put down. Inglewood's Jason Crow Jr., just a great scorer. Christian Collins, St. John Bosco. Brandon McCoy Jr. from Sierra Canyon, and Maxie Adams, his teammate. Sharif Malogo from St. Francis, he's that big guy. You said he's banged up. Navarro Bowman of Notre Dame. And I put down Grayson Coleman, and he's from Milk, and I'm sure there's a lot of other players. Any thoughts on that group?
Yeah, no, it's a good group. Asen Jimenez from La Habra is this point guard everyone loves. Keep an eye out on him. really, really good player. We mentioned, Isaiah Rogers from Corona Centennial. There are great players just about everywhere when it comes to the Open division. And obviously, I got Gene Roebuck from La Mirada is like a 5-star guy. So they're everywhere. And I think it's going to make for a great Open division no matter how many teams they take. But you nailed the list there.
McDonald's All-Americans, we had 4 of them. I think we probably mentioned them. Jason Crow, again, from Inglewood. Christian Collins, St. John Bosco. Brandon McCoy, Sierra Canyon. And, of course, Maxie Adams from Sierra Canyon. That's quite an honor.
Yeah, I think every year the Southern California is well represented in that game. And not only are they from Southern California, they're generally from the southern section, so it's no surprise.
Okay, you were at the Hoop Hall Classic.
You got it.
Jason Crow put on a show.
Yes, he did. He had 48 points, and he broke the scoring record at the Hoop Hall, which was set by Jason Tatum.
This is back east.
Yeah, who had 40. So the Hoop Hall Classic is at Springfield College in Massachusetts, and it is one of the best showcases in America. And Jason Crow Jr. absolutely put on a show. A couple little snippets here, obviously a big dunk, but again, 48 points. I believe it took him 36 shots to do it, which isn't a surprise, but for Inglewood to travel all the way to the Northeast in Massachusetts and not just win the game, but for Jason to set a record and so on and so forth. Remember, this is the all-time leading scorer in California history. So Missouri commit, definitely has pro potential. I think there's a lot of basketball game he still needs to learn because I don't know how much he'll be able to shoot 35 times in a game, but certainly a talent to keep an eye on. Also out on that trip was St. John Bosco and Sierra Canyon and Mater Dei, actually. So a few other teams played.
How many teams are going to make the Open Division in boys basketball? And then we'll turn our attention to the girls.
Yeah, I think, and please, if you go to si.com/high schools or find me on Twitter, I did a whole video breakdown and article on why I believe it'll be 12 teams. The CIF state,
and that's more than usual.
Yes, so generally it's 8. Last year they did 10.
Right.
And generally there's 8 playoff berths from that division. But this year the CIF flexed. They changed the bulletin. They changed the rules a little bit. I don't know if that's what you want to call them, rules, but they changed some things. So now there could be 10 playoff berths from the Open division, which tells me I think they're going to go 12. I'm not so sure the CIF wants to just grant everyone a participation trophy. So if you do 10-team division in the Open and then just berth everyone 10 state playoff berths, there's really no competition. The games basically don't mean anything. So by making it 12 teams and you could potentially be one of 2 teams that go home, it'll make every game matter. So I believe there's going to be 12.
I believe Amari Bailey got himself back in the news. Former great Sierra Canyon basketball player. Played 10 games in the NBA. Nice picture of Amari when he was at UCLA. Had one terrific year there. He wants to petition and go back to college basketball. He played in the pros. So on point counterpoint today, should Amari Bailey be allowed to perform again in college basketball? Not necessarily at UCLA.
I covered Amari all 4 years. I got to know him. I got to know his mom. I mean, really cool people.
When he was at Sierra Canyon.
And when he was at Sierra Canyon. And at UCLA.
And
I was, that's right.
too.
I forgot. I was a UCLA beat writer. Covered him in that NCAA tournament. They lost in Vegas at the buzzer. Julian Strother. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he hit the shot to give him the lead.
Man, your memory, you're on it. This is point counterpoint. Stop interrupting me. But yes, you're right.
We turned back into the show.
Man, Amari, I'm sorry. You have already turned pro. I don't see how you can retroactively come back and be in college. Now, I get there is money in college now with NIL, so really they're not amateurs anymore. They're pros, but they're still playing in the NCAA, and there's got to be something about that matters. So if I'm the NCAA, on top of not allowing Amari Bailey, you've also got to set some type of boundary or precedent that doesn't allow someone that's already left the NCAA ranks to go and pursue their true professional careers to come back. You open up Pandora's box, it will not be able to shut close. And something tells me this might be the first point counterpoint that is really point.
You just stole my thunder.
Yeah.
I agree with Tarek.
Yeah, man.
Now, there's a part of me would love to see Amari come back.
Sure.
To fulfill more what
Whatever.
he could have been in college. But you can't retrace and come back. I think it's more of a publicity stunt. I think it's an opportunity for Amari to get his name in print. But other than that, I don't see it happening. Good try, Amari Belly. That might have been the strangest counterpoint we've ever had. All right, let's turn our attention to girls basketball. Really the best team around is Sierra Canyon's really good. Ontario Christian. Probably with Kalina Smith, Ontario Christian's number one for now. Jersey Robinson's great at Sierra Canyon, and Etowanda. Those are really, and we're seeing the top 10, but really the top 3 are really the group, right?
Yeah, I would say it's really Ontario Christian, Sierra Canyon, and Corona Centennial. Let's not forget they've got, remember, Sydney Douglas transferred there from Ontario Christian. She was a standout freshman, like the 6'5" freshman. And then they've got one of the McDonald's All-Americans is Sydney Bryant.
They do.
That is Carter Bryant's little sister. She's going to Kansas. Corona Centennial kind of loopholed it a little bit. I don't know if you remember this or know this, Randy, but they backloaded their schedule. So they played all their games basically after the sit-out period. So all their transfers were eligible by the time they started playing all their games. So they didn't play their first game until like sometime in December. They're going to be really, really, really good, and I think they're really the third team in this race behind Ontario Christian and Sierra Canyon.
A couple quick notes before we say goodbye. The girls All-Americans in the McDonald's game, Jersey Robinson, Sierra Canyon, and Bryant from Corona Centennial. I also want to shout out for Andrea Antonio of Hamilton High School. She's a freshman point guard. 54 points, a freshman point guard. 54 in a win over a good Westchester team. Quickly, football. Rod Sherman out as the head football coach at Oulu, and so is Chris Reinert at Servite.
Yeah, what a weird offseason it's been, especially in the Trinity League, which is known as the best high school football league in the country. So Jay Sarah, let's go with their coach, but like at a normal time, right after the season's over, you know, right in November, they let go of Victor Santa Cruz. They hire Hardy Nickerson, former NFL vet, 16 years as a linebacker, was on Fattel Factor,
yeah.
Good dude. We'll see how he does. And then here we are in February, and out of nowhere, Orange Lutheran and Servite are now looking for new coaches. So in the fall, we will have 3 first-year coaches in the Trinity League.
Unbelievable change, but again, there's pressure in the Trinity League to win now that you have 3 powerhouse teams, Bosco, Mater Dei, and who's the champion? Santa Margarita and Carson Palmer. Boy, they've really built up the coaches in the Trinity League. You mentioned Hardy Nickerson. He was on your show.
Yeah.
I would imagine other big names will try to apply and get into that Trinity League.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Rod Sherman says, hey, what's up, Servite, what's going on? Maybe he jumps over to Servite. So I know I actually spoke with Chris Reiner, and I think he's got a college job lined up.
Couple minutes left. What's happening this week? The Super Bowl. Super Bowl 60. Going to be a good game, right?
There he
Seattle's
is.
a 4.5-point favorite, and we have a picture of the quarterback, former USC quarterback, the first USC quarterback ever to start in the Super Bowl. What's his name?
Sam Darnold.
Sam the Man Darnold, the guy who has been pushed to the side, considered, a guy that sees ghosts, all kinds of different things.
He did say that. He did say that.
But he's proved the critics wrong. Here's a good group. Here's a list of guys all from the southern section that'll be playing Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, one town, one team, right? That's their big slogan there at San Clemente. And Jaime Ortiz, who's a great coach, coached Sam Darnold at San Clemente. And, there's that great story of Orgeron. Why can't I think of his first name? Ed Orgeron comes to San Clemente football practice, and I think Sam Darnold's a sophomore and is in linebacker drills. And for some reason, Ed Orgeron's like, I kind of like the way that guy looks. What an athlete he is. A player gets hurt playing quarterback at San Clemente. Sam Darnold, great athlete, decent arm, starts playing quarterback, and the rest is history. And maybe the best part of this story, as you alluded to, is he goes to the Jets. He's not very good. Carolina Panthers, not very good.
Not
fine.
great, yeah.
Had a small stint with the Niners. I don't even think he played.
Backed up.
There you go. Then he lands in Minnesota and wins 14 games. You're thinking, okay. And you know what I think is so what? He still, in theory, didn't get selected. He still got kind of put to the wayside. They decided to go with J.J. McCarthy, a rookie coming off an ACL injury. man, he lands up in Seattle and has another 14-win season and is in a Super Bowl and is favored to win that Super Bowl. What a story of resilience.
We've adopted him again. He's reborn in Southern California. All right, that's his story. What's Tarek's story? Who wins the game?
Yeah, I think it's the Seahawks. I just think that they are a more well put together team, and the Patriots are very, very good, and I think they'll make it a game. But I like the Seahawks.
Patriots have always damaged Darnold. They've always been really tough on Seattle. But I agree. I think Seattle wins the football game. We've agreed on everything today. So we're going to say goodbye for now. For Tarek, I'm Randy. This has been SoCal Prep Report. Fire away,
I don't
Tarek.
think the Patriots can score enough points.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that
24-13.
Oh, feels good to be back in the stew.
Basketball, that's your niche.
Like the White Sox?
I like
huh?
your
Huh?
I like your